Hi everybody, it's Diane. I have a new journal to share with you today. You only got to see one process video on this one. It didn't have a lot of complex embellishment in it. Most of the time that I spent working on it, I think, went into the cover because I did a curved hollow back spine. Because it's a writing themed journal, it has a lot of writing space, and I wanted it to just lie nice and flat so you could write in it more easily. So the spine does flatten out nicely for writing. But before I really get into this, I just want to say I am so sorry for those of you who were waiting at the designated time that I designated, where I was going to list my farmers market journals. Monday just had so many things going on, and my son came at my request. I had asked him to come and help me set up. I had to get a new router, and so he came and set that up for me, and I just completely forgot. 3 o'clock came and went, and I didn't list my journals till like 3:40, I remembered. And some of you were waiting, and I know you were, and I apologize for that. This is why I do not like to schedule journals. I know some of you ask me to do that, but I just never know. My life is so erratic. And anyway, I apologize. So the large journal went quickly once I got it listed, and 2 of the TNs are now gone, and this is the only one left. So I do want you to know, if you were there waiting and I didn't list them, there is this one still available, a little TN. Farmers Market themed journal, very cute. So, well, this video will go up tomorrow. So as of right now, this little journal is still in my shop. Okay, so now I want to get into this book. This book is called Words, and it was requested, so it's reserved for someone. So from now on, I will take some reservations, but please don't be upset if I have a journal or set of journals that you want to reserve and I say I'm not going to reserve this one, because don't take it personally, because I am reserving some and then also just listing some in my shop so that whoever gets it first can have it. I will try to list at different times since I'm not going to schedule them, because I can't schedule it on Etsy. Like, I can schedule a video to show up at a certain time. I can't do that on Etsy. I can list it and put it in the drafts, and when I want to go list it, all I have to do is publish it, but I have to physically do that. And if I am not around, something's happening, it doesn't happen. So anyway, my videos go up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and if it's a video for a journal, the journal goes up then too, or sometimes I even put it up the night before, knowing that the video is going to be up at 8 o'clock and the journal is already in the shop. So a lot of you, I'm on the East Coast, so those of you on the West Coast, it's 5 o'clock in the morning when I list it. So I will try to list them at different times, okay? So there will be journals that are reserved for people, and there will be journals that I will say I'm not reserving it, it's just going to go in my shop. I don't know when it's going to go in my shop. So I know that's a lot of talking, and we're not going into the book. So let's go into the book. This was created with a vintage book about travel. Stoddard's Lectures was the name of the book, but I loved the beautiful marbling on the cover and the old leather on the corners and the spine. You can still see a little bit of that. I had debated on putting metal corners on the covers, but I didn't want to, because that one's kind of a lot more worn than that one, but it's still not too bad, and I didn't want to detract from the leather corners, the pretty burgundy. There's a pretty, I think it's an upholstery type of fabric on the spine. There's a little bit of ribbon. Isn't that pretty? And I used Mrs. Cogg's images. Let me show you again. I have 3 different sets of her images. I have writing and journaling, and these are the pretty pictures that you will see. Journal and writing phrases and sayings, so that will be these pieces that you will see. And the other one is, I don't know, but it's definitions. And the definitions have to do with journal making, basically. Journaling and journal making, book making. So they just look like little definitions. So those are what I used. And then I also used Antique Papery's digital pages called Antiqued Paper, I think. Wait, I have it written down. I told you the first time. Altered Antique. Altered Antique are the pages that I use. And I will link Mrs. Cogg's and Antique Papery. The end papers in this book are just beautiful. Almost silvery. It's green, but when the light hits it, it almost has a silvery hint to it. I used a little printable label there with green on it from Rachel at Roxy Creations. There's a piece of fabric there on the inside and a piece of gimp that really matches that green really well. So as I said, there's not an awful lot of embellishing on the pages. I wanted a lot of room for writing, but I did have to do some embellishing. And I think the embellishing that was done is conducive to a journal that is made for writing in. Aren't most journals made for writing in? Well, no, not all of them. Some people just like to look at them, which is fine, or glue in them and stuff. But I used the writing and journaling images. So here's a lady writing. She's got a envelope and a letter here, so I think she is writing a reply to this letter. I have a video showing the collaging of the signature, the front pages of each signature. But there's copy dyed tracing paper behind her. There's a bit of cardstock, white cardstock that I put through my Big Shot with a texture folder, and I rubbed ink on it. So there's just a little bit of that for some texture. A little Tim Holtz ephemera piece, one of the botanicals, and then one of the words from Mrs. Cogg's. I copy dyed paper, and I had some stamps that I could use. I love my writing and pen stamps. So there's a lady's hand with a feather pen. This is one of the Antique Papery papers. These don't really have anything to do with writing. They're just collaged papers, and they're pretty, and I liked the look of them with the whole feel of this book. Don't Be a Writer, Be Writing by William Faulkner. Oh, on the back of the Antique Papery papers, I just have a variety of background papers that you can write on. This one happens to be a grid. This is copy dyed composition book paper, and I added this lace. There's a lot of copy dyeing and vintage look in here, and I love how this bright white lace looks on there. I use the same lace throughout instead of changing it up like I usually do. There's circles and tags that come with the Antique Papery set, so I used some of those. I just stapled that on there for fun. This is one of Mrs. Cogg's words. I glued it to a piece of scrapbook paper and glued it on as a pocket. The only sewing I did in this book was to sew on the lace, and there's some fabric flips, and I think there's one more thing that got sewn in here, but I'll let you know when I get there. I didn't sew any of the pockets on this time. So here's one of the tags, and I didn't punch the little hole. There, now it's got its little hole. And then these letters, they're just fun, and I put them in because the book is about writing, and these are the letters. And that came from Bohemian Crafting. I ran some glassine bags through my Big Shot also with embossing plates. So this is an embossed glassine bag, and I rubbed some ink over it, vintage photo, and just glued this on it. So this is a pretty simple embellishment. I did make journaling cards out of large index cards, Mrs. Coggs images, a piece of old ledger paper that has writing on it, a little bit of lace, and then here's one of the definitions. Definition of a pen. It says quill feather with a quill is a feather with quill pointed and split into two sections, and she's writing with a feather pen there. I added a tab and stamped "Love This" on it, and that goes right in there. And then tucked behind it is a leftover sheet of journaling paper that I had printed. I think I printed these for my music journals. And it has lines for journaling on one side, so each signature has one of those sheets. There's a fabric flip. And a stamp of a really pretty pen. This is pink copy paper that I coffee dyed. This one has some little doilies on it. That's a printable. And this, I just stuck a random word on the page. It says junk journal. And the other kind of embellishment I did in these was a glassine envelope that I inked and then tucked a couple of the tags inside. And then I made another, just a very simple tag with Mrs. Coggs images. And most of the tags are blank on the back. But I put this here so that you would know this is a picture of Louisa May Alcott sitting at her writing desk, the same desk where she wrote Little Women. And that goes behind the glassine envelope. I love this with the house on it. So lots of blank space. On the scrapbook paper that would be harder to write on, I did add pockets and things that you could put things into, to write on. And on this one, I just glued down a piece of ledger paper that you can write on, and added a cutout, die cut and embossed oval frame, and added this little image from Mrs. Coggs. And then on this piece of glassine that's coffee dyed, or I don't know what kind of paper it is, but it's coffee dyed. I added a stamped muslin piece. It is hemmed. I don't know what it came from, but I had this little piece with a hem on it. And I just pinked the sides and stamped this. It's an invitation to a ball. So the owner of this book could write here, journal here, about the ball that she attended. And there's a little applique bow there. It's a vintage applique. Creativity takes courage. It does take courage to put yourself out there, take the first step, and do something. And it still takes courage for me to try new things. Attempting these hollow back spines, it's a step in courage for me every single time. I'm slowly getting better at it. But I want to do art journaling again, and that's a step of courage for me, because I don't know, it just takes bravery to put yourself out there. Even if it's just me in my room doing something, it takes courage. There's another stamp up here of some script. And then this page also has a quote: "Don't believe everything you think." Don't tell yourself, I can't be an art journaler, or I can't do that. Don't believe it. Just try it. And this is another leftover page that I had with journaling lines. That's from Ephemera's Vintage Garden. Here's a second signature with the image. There's no pocket or anything on the front of each signature. They're just collaged for looks. And again, the textured piece, and a Tim Holtz piece, and a quote: "Hopes and dreams." I think she's writing about her hopes and dreams. I love the colors in this image. There's a little bottle of ink there. And again, just a pocket with 2 little tags, and it says inspiration. It's from the music journal that I made. This one is textured. It doesn't show up quite as much, but it has quilted texture to it. This is a Stampin' Up! Embossing folder called Tufted. Altered pages, that's appropriate for junk journals. And then here is the tag in there, and it's stamped notes there. Preserve, this is a quote from Louisa May Alcott. Preserve your memories and keep them well. What you forget, you can never retell. It's a little fabric flip with a image from a piece of fabric cut out there. An open book. And here's another pen stamp that I have. See, that's a blank on the back of that one. This one is pink. These are digitals from tailor-made journals that are on the backs. Most of them, I think. And again, it's a collage with a word and a definition and a piece of paper that you can write on. This came out of an old address book. This is a definition for ink, and the word up there is writing. Piece of muslin with, this is the other thing I sewed. Ow. I stamped a doily on there and put a little applique. So it's kind of like a fabric flip, but it's just a piece of muslin with stamping on it. We saw the other one on the other page. The worst thing you write is better than the best thing you did not write. In other words, just do it. The same can be said for crafting. Just do it. And here is a little vignette of stacked books and a quill and ink pot and letters. Every day is a fresh start. And there is a leftover page from another project. It looks like crinkled up notebook paper. I love this. And that's from Studio 28E, one of her sets. This one says, penny for your thoughts. And there's a piece of flowered textured paper, cardstock back there. There's copy dyed tracing paper behind all of those images that are on the front page of the signature. There's a stamp of a postmark. You can make anything by writing, C.S. Lewis. And boy did he. He made a whole new world. And this says diary, a couple tags inside. I love the embossing folder on this one. It says thoughts. Here's a black and white photo of a lady sitting at her desk with her feet up. It says imagination, definition, a little bit of lace, and it says dream there. And then a page to journal on. You can journal on the back too. This one I fussy cut these flowers out and sewed them to the top of this fabric flip. Stories and another pen. And this is a definition for bind. And it says journaling, and this is an old ledger record book page. And here is the last piece of muslin with a stamp on it. It's just a pretty Edwardian lady. And a little ribbon rose that's a vintage piece. If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write. Martin Luther. And there's just a series of pen nibs there on this stamp. That's I think that's from Stampington and Company. The bottom line is, and there's letter G, and that's the end. So this was a very, very enjoyable book to make. It was also refreshing to just make one journal instead of 2 or 3. So I enjoyed that. I do, however, enjoy creating multiples. So this is ready for my customer who requested it, and I'll message her and let her know it's ready. And yeah, I will be working on some more journals very soon. I'm thinking of doing the either glue books or Stash Buster books, because I can do a bunch of them more quickly and move some things out. I'm thinking I might do Stash Buster books with little children's books, but they're not for children, they're for you to glue in, write in, whatever you want to do. So I think that's what I'll do next. So watch for those, and they're bound with my Bind It All with the wires. I don't think I have anything else to talk about, so thanks for watching. I hope you love this book. Leave a comment, please, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.